We're all set? Very good, thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, December 30th, 2025. Memorial Hall, 801 Washington Street, Canton, Mass., in the Sala Meeting Room, the time being 7 o'clock. We have one item on the agenda this evening. It's police chief interviews with Lieutenant Charles Ray and Chief Michael Daniels. Before we get into the interviews, we'd like to summarize the police chief search and selection process, how we got to where we are today. So Charlie, could you go through that process?
Sure. The police chief search and selection process was conducted by Public Safety Consultants, or PSC, and managed by Principal Consultant Russ Stevens. Mr. Stevens is a former police chief with over 40 years of law enforcement experience, with 24 years of command level experience. He's a past president of the Chiefs of Police of Massachusetts and the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission. PSC has conducted over 800 assessment centers and 200 police chief searches. This was a 5-phase selection process, began about 5 months ago in August, and it includes the following phases. Phase 1, key stakeholder interviews were held, a public online survey was released, a community listening session held at CHS was held, and a review of police department policies and procedures and other relevant documents was conducted. The information gleaned during phase 1 was used by the consultant to formulate interview and written questions for the candidates in the future phases. Phase 2 was the preliminary candidate selection. This is the initial resume review where candidates are eliminated if they don't meet the job qualifications. Of the 29 applicants, 11 candidates were determined to have met the job qualification and to have possessed the requisite command level experience for the position of police chief. I always do that. The 11 remaining candidates were then asked to provide written responses to 11 essay questions. Upon resume review and the scoring of the essay questions, the consultant recommended 6 of those candidates move on to phase 3, including both candidates you will be interviewing this evening. Phase 3 is the evaluation for the assessment center participation. The consultant, town administrator, assistant town administrator, and HR director conducted virtual interviews with the 6 candidates to evaluate them on the oral communication skills and ability to answer questions spontaneously. Of those 6 candidates, 3 withdrew after this phase. 1 candidate took another position prior to completing the hiring process. 1 candidate was a finalist in a larger community and chose to pursue that opportunity exclusively. And 1 candidate was concerned for the privacy of his family and did not want to subject them to the intense ongoing scrutiny in Canton. It is not uncommon for police chief candidates to be in multiple hiring processes at the same time. Phase 4 was the actual assessment center. The 3 remaining candidates participated in the assessment center phase of the selection process. The assessment center is a formal process that utilizes a team of subject matter experts, in this case retired and active police chiefs with no connection to Canton, to evaluate the candidate's ability to effectively deal with challenges posed during a series of 5 real-world scenarios. Those scenarios include citizen complaints, personnel problems, presenting at community meetings, and discipline issues. The candidates are then ranked by the assessors based on their performance in the assessment center exercises. One of our remaining top 3 candidates withdrew after the assessment center phase, citing his decision to retire from law enforcement entirely and pursue other opportunities. Which brings us to phase 5, the final interviews. So the 2 candidates that are presented to the board tonight are to be publicly interviewed for the board to hopefully make its selection. Thus, our 29 original applicants have been pared down to the final 2. We have 1 external candidate, Chief Michael Daniels, currently serving as the Oxford, Mass. Police Chief, and Lieutenant Charles Ray of the Canton Police Department. And that's how we got to tonight.
Thank you, Charlie. Do we have an order of these interviews? Is it
I believe Lieutenant Ray is going to be first.
Lieutenant Ray? All right, could we have Lieutenant Ray come in, please?
Up here.
Binders for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome, Lieutenant. How are you
Evening.
this evening? Good?
Good to see you.
Okay, good to see you. You will be participating in a panel interview where board members will ask you a series of questions on a rotating base. If you don't understand a question, you may ask the question to be repeated or for clarification. Any member of the board may ask follow-up questions to answers given. Do you have any issue with that?
No?
Okay, seeing none, why don't we start from left to right? Sue, you want to start?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
So-
Did you also note that this is being recorded?
Oh, yes, most important. This meeting is being recorded by Canton Community Television and will be able to be viewed by later dates. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Mr. Chair, typically we let them make a brief opening statement.
Oh, yes, absolutely, sorry.
Themselves.
Would you like to make a brief opening statement, sir?
I can tell you a little bit about myself, unless that's one of the first questions.
Nope, that's fine. Go
All
ahead.
right. My name's Charles Ray. I was born and raised in Canton. Something I'm proud of. I know it's been difficult to say the last few years, but I'm still waving the green and white. I went to the Canton Public Schools where I had a great experience, and my grades and sports were both important to me. And I'd like to think I contributed to some successful hockey and baseball teams in the early 90s. After graduation, I started at Bridgewater State University, but after a year, I couldn't resist the military any longer, so I enlisted in the Army Reserve National Guard as an infantryman, where I spent the next year in basic and advanced training. When I got back, I resumed and completed my bachelor's degree in criminology at Bridgewater State University. I then went right on to graduate work and got my master's in criminal justice at Anna Maria College. It was right about that time I started at CPD. So I had a dual interest in education and counseling and consider myself a lifelong learner. So I got a second master's degree in educational counseling. I'm going to jump over to my cover letter, which you
Yep.
guys all have in your binder
You do,
for
thank you.
a little bit. While working at CPD over the last 25 plus years, I've acquired much specialized training relative to law enforcement and leadership. As my resume illustrates, I have professional experience in the field of law enforcement and education, as well as a military background. In my current position, I serve as part of the command staff and one of 5 administrators in the department. I regularly serve as a patrol shift commander while overseeing the school resource officer program and family services unit, serving Canton's youth, special victims, and families throughout the community. Additionally, I anticipate enhancing my skill set with the FBI Leader Executive Leadership Institute next month. In addition to leadership positions within the Canton Public Schools,
Excuse me, Mr. Ray, could you please put that down? This is an interview. We don't want any interruptions, please. Thank you.
Good, continue.
some of my strengths include communication skills, approachability, strategic thinking, problem solving, budgeting, and personnel management. I have a thorough knowledge of police administration, operations, and investigations. I have the support of the rank and file, the union, along with the demonstrated experience establishing and maintaining effective relationship with employees, administrators, town officials, and the community at large. On the personal side of things, somewhere in this time frame, I met my wife, and 20 years later, we're happily married and raising our daughter here in Canton and enjoying everything the town has to offer. When I'm not working, I enjoy anything outdoors, yard work, hiking, beach in the warmer months, dining at nice restaurants, 80s music, family time at my house, following sports, and reading anything I can get my hands on.
Thank you, sir. Sue, would you like to start?
Okay. Pardon me while I shuffle papers here for a moment. All right, good evening, Lieutenant.
Good evening.
All right, as chief, what role would you play when a case handled by your department becomes the subject of intense public media and/or judicial scrutiny?
Well, as the chief, if we're referring to some of the scrutiny we've had in the last 3 years here, as chief, you need to lead the department forward and show a projected image of strength. And you need to establish a trust within the community and have transparency and make sure your officers are accountable.
Okay. With the proviso that there will be questions you cannot answer during an ongoing investigation or trial, would you be willing to hold a town meeting style event to answer the public's questions and hear their concerns in a situation like that?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as, that's part of restoring the trust with the community. And I know there was a kind of a call for that at the beginning of the scenarios we've had the last few years. And it's not to disparage or besmirch anybody before me. I think that probably should have happened. I think it would have helped with the transparency. It would have perhaps prevented some of the chaotic meetings that we've had here. So as far as restoring the trust of the community, it's whatever it takes. I'm open to any ideas on that. And Sir Robert Peel, the father of modern policing, had a quote: "The police are the public and the public are the police." And that was over 200 years ago, but it rings true today. And I consider it a strength that I know the community and the department. And I know that there's been some talk, that people were perhaps afraid of the PD. People shouldn't be afraid of the PD. We'll open lines of communication from the town administrator up to a select board and back down in the same fashion. And I would have the monthly forums in addition to weekly, well, not weekly coffee talks, but regular coffee talks. I do enjoy coffee. I would enhance the communication via social media platforms. I like to improve the website. I think our policies should be up there. There's 114 of them, so it'll take a little bit to get them up there. But all of that restores the trust, and it helps the communication and the established transparency.
Shall I move on?
Thank you.
Okay.
Mike?
Okay.
Oh, she has one more. She has three. Did you do three yet?
No,
Okay,
just the
go
one.
ahead. All right, go ahead,
Okay.
sorry.
But before- I
Oh,
just
we're
want to
doing
make
them
sure
all
no
one
one had
at a time?
Yeah, I thought we
follow-up
were gonna
questions.
Thought we were doing a little
That's
round
okay.
robin.
No, I'm just
Okay.
making sure there were no follow-up
Okay,
questions.
that's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Next, thank you for that. Some individuals perceive that there is a subculture in law enforcement where there is an adherence to a code of silence when there is wrongdoing on the part of the police. How will you provide transparency within our community and reassure them that this will not occur in Canton under your leadership?
Some of the answers to that is going to overlap with the restoring the trust of the community, but I can move on to some disciplinary and accountability factors that could use some enhancement as well. As far as the restoring the trust in the community piece, I do want to establish a Chiefs Advisory Council. I think that would be a critical piece to try to get the whole community involved and let them know that their voice is heard. That would be a cross-section of community reps that I would meet with quarterly to discuss pertinent issues and solicit feedback on where CPD can improve and where practical develop strategies to execute the departmental improvements. And as far as the accountability piece, I mean, the Canton Police Department doesn't answer to the DA's office or the Mass State Police. We answer to the citizens of Canton, so we're going to try to restore that. Organizationally, everything is on the table. 360-degree interviews with members of the department can facilitate two-way communication. And I want to develop annual evaluations and developments in conjunction with the union. That may change in its application over time, but I think it's long overdue to have evaluations from the bottom up, top down.
That's great. What will you do to provide a culture that will encourage younger officers to speak up when they have a concern, even if that concern involves the behavior of a more senior officer?
I think that's where the regular 360-degree interviews will come in. It's going to be, by nature of that description, it's two-way interview. It's, what can we do better as a department? I'm open to any ideas from new officers. They have a lot of new ideas that just by age alone, I haven't been able to really adapt to. I'm amazed at some of the poise that these guys show out there, and technology alone is, I'm an old, I'm taking notes on a pad of paper, and they're doing everything on their phones, and they have it uploaded to the cruiser computer before I, get back to the station. So it's an impressive group of guys, and I think the fact that I've known them, I've worked with them, trained them, helped hire them, supervise them. I think they feel free to come and talk to me, and that will continue.
Very good. Thank you. Does anyone have any follow-up? Okay. And lastly, from me anyway, behavioral health issues make up a substantial percentage of police calls. The mental health needs in the community and in the interrelationship with the police as first responders are critically important in Canton. How will you assess the need for training and improve response to calls that include mental health crises?
It's really a cornerstone of my police work. I mean, I've been community oriented, pretty much my entire career. And as I mentioned previously, I went to school for an additional degree in counseling. So you need physical and mental health both need to be there for the officers and the community. And we've had in 2024, CPD handled 480 mental health related calls, including 96 Section 12s. Which is
sorry, what's a Section 12?
It's involuntary hospitalization, where if we go to a scene where somebody's in mental health crises, we fill out the paperwork and facilitate them getting to the hospital and getting some help that they need.
Okay.
But it's one of my priorities, and it's probably another question in here somewhere. But is officer wellness and the mental health for officers, because we can't help the community if we're struggling ourselves, and we see a lot of traumatic stuff every day.
I'm curious to know, since you have a master's in counseling, how that's played a role in your career in law enforcement.
Well, it has. I'd say I've overlapped, my law enforcement work with. I take a lot of pride in the partnership that we have with the schools, and I think I've played a large part in spearheading that and enhancing that program. So it's something I think about every day, and I'm on the phone regularly with our school resource officers. We have 4 full-time school resource officers for a department our size and a town our size. I think it's over and above, and I think it's impressive. And so I utilize my knowledge and skills on that all the time.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant. The town of Canton is looking for a police chief who understands the unique aspects of the town and the policing needs of the community. If selected, how will you introduce yourself to the residents and understand the needs of the community?
Well, we're going to probably come back to the forums at that point and the coffee talks. I've been living here my entire life, so I kind of hit the ground running on this one here. I'm out there at the shops, the restaurants, the fields, the rinks, the courts. So I mean, I'm seeing everybody out there all the time anyway. But we're going to have the monthly forums, and I hope people show up, because I've hosted coffee talks before, and sometimes they're not as well attended as you'd like. But if I just want to stress this is an open line of communication, not only with the select board, but with the citizens as well. Everybody's going to have a voice. If you want to be heard, I want to hear what you have to say.
Just to follow up to that, if the forums end up not being getting the bang for the buck that you expected, do you have a backup plan? Like if that's not getting you the feedback that you're looking for, if we're not improving the transparency, the public trust, what's a fallback plan?
Well, the Chiefs Advisory Council I hope to get up and running immediately or as soon as possible. So that would be probably on a quarterly fashion. But that's where you're going to have the cross section of people in the community, and it's if they can't make the forum or they're not comfortable talking to me directly, they should be able to talk to their area rep, we'll say, and they can bring it to me, and we can communicate that way.
Okay, thank you. As chief, please describe 2 innovative programs you would like to initiate in Canton.
We need some dogs, so I'm definitely looking to initiate community resource dogs / comfort dogs. I feel like we're the only town around that doesn't have them right now, and I would like, I'd like a platoon of them if I could, but realistically, 2 or 3, and there's a variety of purposes you can use those for: the schools, the elderly, the station dog. You pet a dog, your blood pressure goes down. So that's one initiative that I definitely want to get off the ground right away. And I want to rebrand or expand the community outreach unit. Right now we have a family services unit, but I want to add some, mental health. I want to add hopefully another mental health clinician to that group, as well as a sergeant supervisor that can, they can facilitate some of the open houses we want to do, a citizens academy, stuff like that, and we're going to need some handlers for the dogs, and they can go around as well. So I guess it would be a expansion, a creation, rebranding, whatever we want to call it, of a community outreach unit and canines.
So I'm just not familiar. Is there a community outreach unit existing in Canton right now?
No, we have a family services unit.
Okay.
So it's going to be a little bit of a rebranding of that, but it's, we're going to expand upon that, with a mental health clinician and dogs and more personnel. And the social media manager will probably be linked up with them as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, last question for me, Lieutenant. While serving in your current position, give us an example of how you have improved the police-citizen relations in the community.
I think my affiliation with the schools is kind of at the forefront with that. I mean, anybody that has a kid in the community knows that that's kind of the center, the focal point of their life. So I mean, that's at my 25 years, that's the one cornerstone of my career that I really treasure the most is the partnership with the schools that I've helped develop and enhance. And anytime I can get to the schools or functions, I'm there. And yeah, that's how you talk to a lot of people in the community.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lieutenant, if appointed police chief, how would you address and prioritize the needs of the department itself?
Well, the needs of the department, some of my priorities with the department, you got to rebuild the organization. Recruitment and retention is not where it should be right now. We're hurting there. Policing in general is having a tough time with it. And I think our department probably a little bit more so. So we're working on it, but right now we're fully authorized for 47. We're down at 37 right now. We have 4 in the pipeline, but we also have a few that are, retiring very soon. So it's kind of a one in, one out right now. So in order to enhance that recruitment and retention, so under that umbrella would be a removal of civil service, which I know has been discussed, but it hasn't gotten off the ground. And I can get that over the finish line. I have a strong working relationship with the union. We have a template in place ready to go. It's just a matter of getting everybody in the same room.
Which goes right into another question I had, which was hiring and retaining qualified police officers is getting increasingly difficult in the community. So one of your initiatives would be to eliminate civil service. I know a lot of
Removal of the police department from civil service.
remove that one of those items, and that will allow you to go out in the general community to.
I mean, we're still going to have a process in place, of course, but you still would have to go through, after the initial, we'll have to have some sort of an exam set up. There's plenty of places you can contract out to hold those exams, or we could develop one on our own, but it's easier to already go to the people that already have this stuff. And then you take the exam, you invite them in for interviews. You're still going to have to pass the preliminary background check, the medical, the physical fitness test, everything that we do have to pass now, but it just eliminates that hurdle of the biannual civil service test, and you're tied to that list. With this would just expand the pool significantly.
Yeah, I know a lot of communities have gone that route. So
Yeah, it's we're playing from behind on that is definitely, I would say, over 50% of the surrounding communities have already gone through that. So, and Stoughton, for example, I mean, they're up to about 70 guys now.
really,
Yeah, men and women there, and it's they were at 50 not too long ago.
how long ago did they switch over?
23, I think it was.
It's within the last couple of
23,
years.
24.
It's a phased in process when you leave in civil service, because you still have to honor the most recent test, which is good for 2 years. But you can, in the meantime, switch over to a hybrid format. They offer that now, where you can go 1 for 1. We could also lift the age cap on ours, which I think would expand our pool. We've lost some good candidates just because they're over 32 years old, and
Right.
You could start in this job, in your mid-30s and have a good career.
Very good. Last, as a new police chief, how will you engage your members in a vision forward? How would you set up your team to look into the future as a solid team?
Well, it's the part of the rebuilding of the organization is it's going to be accountability, professionalism, and pride. I'd like to restore that. It's been a challenging place to work for the last 3 years, but we're moving forward at 1492. It's the address down there, but it's and I just want to get everybody else in the train. So I'm hoping the select board joins us and we can get all the citizens to join us as well. And the guys down there, once you take care of the little stuff, and that so you prevent any bigger problems. And then it just creates pride in the department, and we expand our recruitment and retention, and then we all work together. There's all kinds of training out there so people can enrich their jobs. Once they feel competent, then they thrive in that position. And I want cross training, so everybody should know how to do a few different things. And if you want to do investigations, you should have a shot at doing that. It shouldn't be you got to wait 15, 20 years to, get into that unit, so there's going to be some rotational assignments.
Very good. Thank you. Trish?
Okay. First of all, did the police department want to introduce themselves? Because I don't know everyone back there, but I know you're all part of the police. I know just Officer Nix, because I just dealt with him the other day. You're all here for supporting Lieutenant Ray. So does anyone want to say hello? Seriously? No one?
I can go around the room.
Yes, that would be awesome.
We're actually here to support Lieutenant Ray and the potential next.
Okay. Thanks, James. Okay. Who else?
Yeah, my name is Scott Connor. I've been around for 26 years.
Hi, Scott.
My family grew up in town.
Same.
I'm here to support Lieutenant Ray. I'm one of the SROs. I am with the regional. I've been there for almost 20 years.
Awesome. Thank you.
He has grown the trust. Kids, program in school, trust kids, those trust in the community. Those kids grow up, moving in the community. So he learned at a very young toddler. The problem is that you want to get the community changed, you got to change the thinking of the youth first. So that's kind of what we've been building on for the last many years. I got on probably 9 months after Lieutenant Ray did. And it's
Public comments.
All right, well, I just want to say hello. I won't keep everyone. But I mean, we were good on time. All right, yeah. I just said, yeah. But thank you for your kind words for Lieutenant Ray. Okay, so building trust between the police department and the community is essential for effective policing. Please explain the importance of Canton community's relationship with the department and the specific steps you would like to take to remain engaged with community, even when residents question the department's impartiality. I know we're saying the same questions over and over again, but maybe you can mix up a bit.
Well, I'll touch on them again, and I can certainly elaborate on any of these bullet points if you guys would like with follow-ups. But again, the simple answer is whatever it takes, and I'm open to any ideas. I can't do it alone. I was the only candidate at the sparsely attended police chief search listening session back in October.
Yeah.
And I think it was Ms. Harrington, there was in a response to one comment, quite pointedly said, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
It's we're happy to smile and get to know people and have people know us. But it's challenging when, you pull in and out of your station and you have, protests there all the time, and it's their right to do it. And that's, that's all fine and well, but it's, it just goes to show it's a two-way street, but, we're willing to do our part.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, building on that, one thing about what I like about Interim Chief Perkins is that he went out and chatted with the protesters. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about it from him, but I heard about it from one of the protesters who was thrilled that they were chatting it up with him. So.
If I'm selected as chief, I'm sure I'll be out there on the lawn. It's he's been a great mentor to me in the short time that he's been here. So
yeah, he's something.
he's shown me quite a few things that I'm going to try to hopefully take, into the future of my career.
All right, well, thank you. Next, how would you respond if credible concerns were raised about the investigative practices within your department, past or present?
So there'll be some sort of a complaint.
Yeah,
Answer
so
that
if there was
question.
concerns about the way an investigation was being held, how would you deal with that?
Well, it's we all recently. It's that I would imagine we. Well, I'd like to have the Citizens Academy, which we're going to demonstrate and show people what an investigation involves.
Yeah,
Because I think there's a misconception on everybody thinks it's an episode of Law and Order or CSI, and it's not as simple as that. And it's we respond to the emergency, so I'd like to show people what it means to go the call for service all the way through the court prosecution and everything that's involved in it. And if the concern goes beyond that and it turns into a legitimate complaint, then that's where our internal affairs would certainly look into that and investigate that. And there's a whole procedure on that I can elaborate on if you'd like.
probably not so much. I think it was, all right, so the elephant in the room is 2023, the Karen Reed case broke out, and we all, heard about it. And I think that one of the things we saw were two officers did things like, for example, someone accepted a call from a witness and then met all the witnesses at one place. And as opposed to having another officer who's impartial call the witnesses into interrogation rooms and interview them separately. So if you were chief when that happened, what would there be consequences for the officer who did that? Like, what does one do when an officer doesn't follow like a standard operating procedure? I know it's not like against the law to do what he did, but it's probably not a standard operating procedure that he did.
Well, like I said, we have 114 policies, so we obviously have got to, adherence to policy is important. It's nice that they're there, but we actually need to follow them. And out of those 114, you don't have them all committed to memory. So it's, but we have them there for reference. And, the ones that we use on a more frequent basis, you kind of have committed to memory. But as far as, I'm not quite sure I understand the particular situation that you're describing.
Oh,
but,
I'm just saying, if someone did something that's not standard operating procedure, would there be consequences for the actions that you didn't think were right?
Yes, yeah. Thank you for describing that differently. But the accountability piece, we need some tightening up on the accountability piece. Not for that particular scenario necessarily,
Yeah.
just in general.
Yeah.
And that's if a concern comes in, that's a possible internal infraction.
Yeah.
So that's when you got to meet with the officer, and there's going to be outline what the story is, what's going on there, and then it could be starting progressive discipline with a verbal counseling, retraining, and then if it
That's what
happens
I was
beyond that,
wondering.
then it turns into a written warning, and then depending on the severity of it, suspensions up to 5 days. You can't do any more than 5 days without select board approval anyway.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that when concerns like that may arise, I'm going to keep an open line of communication with the select board, whether it be through a town administrator or whatnot. But you guys are going to know about it.
Okay. And my last question is, what does ethical leadership in the CPD mean to you in terms of community policing, both in practice and in parents? And I can elaborate on those if you want, but just in practice, we'll first talk about community policing. Have you ever thought about that?
Did you say what kind of leadership?
Community policing. So for example, it's sort of your point about trying to get out and meet with community, and you have a strong school resource officer program. But I was just, so for example, maybe whoever's on the day shift could walk a beat, like walk down Washington Street when the kids are getting out of school and get to know some of the kids who are walking downtown, for example.
Sure.
Would you do, just so they start to get to know the community in that way, if they're not being, talking with the school resource officers? There's lots of kids in the school. So.
Sure. It's a good idea. I like it.
Oh, thank you.
But it's we've had walking beats in the past. It's been a long time since we've employed those, but if we have the manpower, which we do during that time of the day shift most of the time. So that's something that we could certainly take a look at, and I'd be happy to deploy an officer out there from 2:30 to, 4:30 when the high school lets out and, the center fills up.
Yeah.
And a lot of them go to the library too. So I think,
Or even going in there and just, disarmingly
yeah,
chat
no, yeah,
or,
100%.
get to know them.
Yeah.
And then when I said community policing in terms of appearance, this is just a personal thing with me. Will you continue with the tinted windows? Because I can't stand them. And not all police departments have them. I just started paying attention after
The windows in the vehicles.
in the vehicles, correct, yes.
Some level of tint, I think, is appropriate. I mean, we can take a look at the level of tinting.
Maybe the level of tint.
It's the temperature in the car. We're
right, so
in
you-
those cars for 8 hours, so
Yeah, okay, so
And
there's
there is
that.
a safety component to it too. As far as if someone approaches an officer, surprisingly, it's but that's certainly something we could take a look at the level of tint.
You maybe level of 10. All right. That's all I have. If anyone wants to,
Do you have any follow-up questions on the board? Seeing none, would you like to do a closing statement, sir?
Sure. It's, this is my longest piece here that I prepared for is my
That's
closing
fine, sir.
statement. So
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna come at you with it. I grew up here and I chose to stay here in the town of Canton. We raised our daughter here now. I'm a stakeholder in the community. For me, it's not about the money. The selection process started when the position was posted in mid-August. I was told countless times not to bother because, there's a cry to go outside. They're going to go outside for the first time in history. I never got a compelling reason as to why. So I said, well, I'm applying anyway. I said this department deserves better than to arbitrarily pick our next police chief just because they're not from Canton. The town deserves better. 11 people applied initially. Then the deadline was extended to 75 days with a higher salary. It ended up netting a total of 29 applicants. Through an exhaustive process, including a written exercise and panel interview, it was narrowed down to 5. Then came the assessment center. We did the assessment center. Somewhere within that time frame, 3 withdrew. I'm still here because I believe in CPD. I believe in these guys in the back of the room. And I believe in the town, when many others have given up on us. I've been with CPD through the thick and thin over the last 25 plus years, especially the last 6 years, which have been particularly challenging. I know the department and the town, and I will hit the ground running for a seamless transition. When you work in a public safety department, it's different than many other types of jobs. You get to know each other. You depend on one another. I've either worked beside, helped train, supervised, or played a role in hiring everyone in the department. And most importantly, I have the support of the rank and file. I have the institutional knowledge to put personnel in the best position to succeed. And there's a lot of talent over there at 1492. I'm ready, willing, and able to manage the men and women of CPD while being fiscally responsible in the process, while keeping an open line of communication with the select board. CPD has already moved forward, and I hope the select board and all citizens of Canton will join us as we leave the challenges of the last few years behind and get back to positivity, the positivity that we all deserve. Thank you for your time and consideration regarding my candidacy for the position of police chief. I'm humbled to be considered, and I look forward to the prospect of working with you all as Canton's 15th chief of police.
Good, thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Mr. Chair, just remember to repeat the directions to Chief.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. The whole thing with the question.
Yeah, just stop him right from the beginning.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
same thing, yeah.
Chief, it's to you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you.
You will be
Good to be here.
you will be participating in a panel interview where board members will be asking you a series of questions in a rotating basis. If you don't understand a question, you may ask the question to be repeated or for clarification. Any member of the board may ask a follow-up question to give an answers. Before we begin with the questions, would you please introduce yourself to the board and take a few minutes to make a brief opening statement?
Sure, absolutely. So first off, I just want to say I'm excited to be here. Obviously, I've been following Canton for a while, but what I'd like to say is, first off, my name is Mike Daniels. Currently, I'm the chief of police over in the town of Oxford. If you don't know where Oxford is, it's located in central Mass, just north of the Connecticut border. It's a very busy community, about 13,500. I oversee a department of 35. So that includes our public safety communications center, as well as our animal control office. So very, very busy community, very tight-knit community. And I'm extremely proud of the things that we've done there. We average about 25 to 35,000 calls per year, which is very, very large for that community and for the size department. So with that being said, prior to becoming chief, I was the administrative lieutenant for the town of Westboro. I was a day shift commander. I think really kind of what got me here was my tenure in Westboro. I was there for about 22 years, closer to maybe 23. And as the administrative lieutenant, I was the accreditation manager. I oversaw community engagement, public information, records management, a whole host of things too long to list. I was also the public information officer. I dealt with all our policies and procedures, all our audits associated with accreditation, you name it. I was also public information and a civil rights officer. So aside from that, I have a master's degree in public administration. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and I was accepted to a PhD program at Northeastern this past spring, but obviously, that would take a backseat to the town of Canton.
Thank you, sir.
One more thing.
Absolutely.
My family would kill me if I didn't mention them, but I live in Worcester. My girlfriend and I, she's my life partner, we have 6 kids. So we have a very busy family.
Wow.
So that's me.
Congratulations on the 6 kids.
Thank you.
We're going to start from the left with Sue Harrington.
Sure.
Select.
I think we met downstairs
We
because
did,
you were
we
coming
ran
up.
into
Yeah.
each other and,
Okay.
on the way in.
Sure.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you.
And my first question for you is, as chief, what role would you play when a case handled by your department becomes the subject of intense public, media, and/or judicial scrutiny?
Sure. So I would obviously take the lead in that. One of the things that I have a couple things going on right now that obviously I can't disclose, but I don't allow something that I know that can be intense. I support my officers. I support my command staff. So if I have a detective working on something, I oversee what it is that they're doing. I know here in Canton, you have a command structure that's very similar to where I came from in Westboro. So the command structure and the way the organization works is actually conducive to that. But I oversee everything. And I'll give you an example. When I come in, and typically I come in on weekends as well, I'll come in for 2 or 3 hours just to get ahead of my week. I go over cases. Every single report that is written, whether it's a minor report, down to a civil infraction, I read it, go over it. I also pass it over to my lieutenants, so we hold each other accountable for the things that we're seeing. If I find that something's going to create a media frenzy, I will take the lead on it. I will guide my officers. I will empower them to do the right thing, but the buck stops with me, and I think that's the way it should be.
Great. Something you just said triggered a follow-up question.
It's
Sorry,
okay.
give me a second. In terms of, and as you, I'm sure, are well aware, we've been through it here in Canton.
Yes,
Would you consider a public forum event?
absolutely, without question.
Okay.
What I do now in Oxford is we had to do, I mean, this process was pretty extensive. We had to do a written assignment. My assignment was 18 pages, and it details and outlines the things that I would do. I believe that that needs to happen. In Oxford right now, I do, you could go online and see it on Oxford Cable Access. I do what's called Breakfast with the Chief. And I didn't create that myself.
Okay.
That was created by my mentor over in Westboro, and I carried it over to Oxford. I was an external chief, obviously, in Oxford, and I knew I had an uphill battle. I needed to connect with the community, and that was one of the first things that I did. And I did that specifically for the seniors, because oftentimes in most municipalities, you'll find that group or that segment is not catered to in the same way because they don't have access.
Mm-hmm.
So I create opportunity for people to see me on a regular basis. If you go through my written assignment, one of the things that I do is I schedule time every Friday. I let people know if someone calls me in the office and I don't have time during the week, I set them up with an appointment. You can come see me on Friday. If you're working on Friday, I will come in on a weekend to speak with you. That is important. And obviously you all know why that's important, but I just want to add that I think people need to understand too, that when you create those bonds with the community and you make yourself available to them, then, you don't have these significant issues, because that's how you gain trust with the community. So I am very open to that. I'm open to a citizen panel. And obviously for you folks and for people in the public, I'm open to, it's not just my officers. I want to be evaluated on my performance as well. I want to make sure that you are happy with what I'm doing with the officers, with the town. Accountability isn't just at the line level. It starts with me, and I will hold myself accountable to the townspeople and to the people seated before me.
Excellent, thank you. Some individuals perceive that there's a subculture in law enforcement where there's an adherence to a code of silence when there is wrongdoing on the part of the police.
Sure.
How will you provide transparency within our community and reassure them that this will not occur in Canton under your leadership?
So I'm telling you right now, that would not occur. That was something that when I went into Oxford, that was something that I had to deal with. The way that I would deal with it is the officers are going to know. I'm very direct. There are no secrets with how I do things. I tell officers, and you can go to Oxford and speak with any of my officers, they know exactly what it is that I expect of them every day. Once you start doing those things, it becomes, it actually drives itself. It drives a positive culture. You start seeing the morale being uplifted. And I will tell you, in my conversations, sometimes I go left of center. So I'll lose my train of thought. But I don't know if I completely answered your question.
You sort of did, but I do have a follow-up.
That's okay. Yeah.
So,
it's okay.
and particularly, we have a young department.
I know.
And I am concerned about providing a culture where younger officers feel they can speak up about a concern,
Absolutely.
even if that concern involves a more senior officer.
Right.
And how do you create that culture?
So it's just my leadership style. Routinely, what I do is when I come in the morning, I always have to walk past the squad room. Okay. I don't walk past the squad room without letting them know that I'm there. I also don't want officers to think that I'm micromanaging them, because that also, creates caution. I routinely sit at roll calls and I let the officers, speak amongst themselves with the sergeant. I observe. And what you'll find too, and this is what I've experienced in Oxford, there's a honeymoon period that's going to be present with whoever you select as chief, right? But if you're consistent as a leader, you'll be able to see the things that need to be changed. And then also, when you're around, your officers, they will approach you, right? I am a supportive leader, and you can ask anyone that I work with, that is my style. And that's absolutely what these officers will get. They will get my support.
Great, thank you. One more from me. Behavioral health issues
Mhm.
make up a substantial percentage of police calls.
Mhm.
The mental health needs in the community and the interrelationship with police as first responders are critically important in Canton. How will you assess the need for training and improve response to calls that include mental health crises?
If I'm correct, I believe that you also have a clinician
You
within
are
the
right, we do.
organization.
Yeah,
I was also the liaison for our clinician program in Westboro.
okay.
So I work very closely with the clinician there. And I don't know if you have a co-response model here, but that's for the citizens of Canton, and I also don't want to forget our officers. So that was used as a resource for the officers internally and also for people externally. I am always looking for training for my officers. And, part of what I do is I evaluate where the needs are. And obviously, if that's something that is needed by Canton, you have a resource already there. But I would supplement that resource with additional training outside of in-service training. And I would make that mandatory because it is something that we're not seeing just in Canton. It's, all over the Commonwealth. And, a lot of times handcuffing people and taking them to jail is not the answer. There is room to de-escalate and find alternatives. But also at the same time, I do expect my officers to do their job and to do it effectively, regardless of the outcome. And that's part of it. So they will receive training if I find that that's something that they're deficient in.
Is there a role, and I truly don't know the answer to this, I'm
Sure.
not looking for a particular answer, but is there a role for police departments to be proactive, particularly with citizens with whom you're having repeated encounters?
That could certainly be created. One of the things that I'm always looking for new ways to engage and solve problems. So I'm being authentic. I don't have an answer for that. There isn't anything that I know of in my career that I've seen that would allow for that. But again, if there's a need for it, I will absolutely accommodate it.
Okay. Thank you.
All set?
All set.
All right,
Mr. Wolf.
thank you. Good evening, Chief Daniels.
Good evening.
The town of Canton is looking for a police chief who understands the unique aspects of the town and the policing needs of the community. If selected, how will you introduce yourself to the residents and understand the needs of the community?
That is
Probably the
what
best
you-
question asked.
No, what you
We had to
said
fight
is-
over who got that one.
Well, what you said is actually what I specialize in. I am very visible. I show up to events. I support my other department heads when needed. I think most people would say that I'm probably a little too visible, but I see a lot of value in that. And I think it's also a good way to gauge the temperature of the community and how they're feeling about the police department. That's how you obviously get feedback, right? So, if I'm selected as your chief, I will be openly looking for that. In my written assignment, I talked about developing an internal newsletter to send out to the people of Canton. And also, we call them dashboards, where we tell you how many arrests we've had, how many incident reports, motor vehicle stops, and some of the results of those things. So that helps, kind of, I guess, it gets us to where I think we all need to be, not just the community of Canton, but across the entire Commonwealth. I think we all need to do a better job of connecting with the community and connecting with the people that we serve. And also, I'd like to add one other thing. I think officers too, they find purpose in connecting with people. I know that that's something that, as I actually started I started in Westboro as a dispatcher, and then after I went to the academy, I went to Bentley University. And Bentley University is a very different policing environment. And it was focused on a lot of community engagement because the clientele is obviously very different. You're dealing with different academic groups, different staff, people of different ages. So, the value of that community contact and that engagement, it helped me immensely, because I also think too, it made my job easier. And that's what the officers will see. And that's one of the things that I've outlined in my plan. I eventually would like to, I don't know if that's here yet, but eventually as time goes on, I'd like to create a community engagement team for the purposes that you're speaking of.
Thank you.
Welcome.
As chief, please describe 2 innovative programs you would like to initiate in Canton.
Sure. Well, breakfast with the chief is one. I think I've gotten so much value out of that for me, for my mental health, because I think sometimes, especially as a police chief, and I talk to other chiefs, and I think sometimes they get stressed out because, they don't have that connection with a particular group. But I think in that environment, it obviously helps me. It helps the community. So that definitely is going to be something that's going to happen if I'm your chief, without a doubt. The other thing that I found, and this is particular to Oxford, and I think Canton may also fall into this too, a career growth and development plan. I sat down with my operations lieutenant, because one of the things that I found, and you have a very similar situation here, but it's scaled up, obviously, because Canton is a larger department. But when I arrived in Oxford, I didn't have a lieutenant. It was just sergeants. And so I ran into a problem where I was doing a lot of the administrative and operational work right off the bat. So that put a tremendous, amount of pressure on me, but I operate well under pressure. So I started thinking to myself, I said, well, how am I going to develop the next group of people? Because I need lieutenants, and I also need, people to be prepared to take on. I ultimately, what I would like to do, or what I have always done, I've always prepared the people behind me to take over my position. And so what I did in Oxford, I created we had a deficiency with supervision. So traditionally in most police departments, if there's not a sergeant available, I know you have 8 sergeants, but if there's not a sergeant available, typically the shift is run by OIC, an officer in charge. That creates a lot of issues, because you're putting someone in a position where they're supervising a shift, and they have to respond and make critical decisions. And if they make the wrong decision, then you have litigation. So what I did was I created a corporal position, right? And by doing that, I've actually prepared, I have 3 corporals right now who at any time can take over for a sergeant at any time, right? So what does that do? It helps me develop people and keep them, number one, engaged, and it actually strengthens the foundation of the department. It also creates a positive culture. When I have my command staff meetings, which I have every quarter, I bring in my lieutenants, my sergeants, and my corporals. That way, when I send out a message, the message is spread amongst a large group of people. So they all know what the vision is for the department, and they can pass that on to the troops. So I would look at, obviously I'd have to sit down and see. I don't want to make changes just for the sake of making changes. That's important. I want the officers that are here to understand that. I'm not coming here to, if I'm selected, I'm not coming here to make their jobs difficult. I'm looking for efficiency. I'm looking to train them and develop them so that they can be the best that they can be for the department and for the community. That is what you need here.
Thank you. While serving in your current position, give us an example of how you have improved police-citizen relations in the community.
That is just, it's hard to describe because it's something that I do naturally. I don't think it's anything that's special. But because my officers see me doing that, they also do it. And that's also a part of career growth and development, right? You want people to see how you are as a leader, right? That becomes infectious amongst the department. So if for me, I always say, I don't like the word or the phrase lead by example, because sometimes people, and I've said this before, sometimes people have the wrong example, or they're leading and they're carrying the wrong example. But what I try to do is I try to show people, what I do, and I share that. I share it with them so that they can carry it on as well. And once they see that, it's going to become an automatic expectation. I am very active. I'm active with my troops. They see me. I make sure I'm seen. I'm out in the community. People in the community, they see me everywhere. We've had coffee with the cop. We had a recent event where, and I worked with the unions on this. It was more of their thing where they had children that needed gifts, and I helped them out with that. And I don't mind taking a back seat to my people at times to let them flourish when they need it.
Right. Thank
I
you,
hope
Chief.
I answered that question.
You did. Thank you.
All right.
What's that, Mike?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. If appointed Canton Police Chief, how would you address and prioritize the needs of the department?
So that's something that I had to do in Oxford. So what I would do is I would do what's called a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is and if you're taking on a project or you're looking to do something, you're evaluating strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So my plan for setting the vision and the goals for the department would be to speak with each officer individually, in private, away from the station. And I'm going to allow them, and this is what's going to create trust between myself and the officers. I'm going to allow them to speak freely about whatever it is that's on their mind, how they see the community, how they see their role within the police department. And also with that, I'll also be able to evaluate where their mind is, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and use those strengths and weaknesses to further the department's vision and goals. So I would start with that, speaking with each individual officer, officers that are specialists, detectives, my command staff, everyone will be spoken to individually. I will also speak with Interim Chief Joe Perkins. I actually watched when I went for, this is a side note, I just want to tell you, when I went for the Oxford Chief's job, I watched his interview in 2013 when he was over in Middleborough. So I kind of had watched him prior to him becoming interim chief here because I was preparing myself for the Oxford job. So that's, an interesting parallel.
Very good. That's a good answer, sir.
Like I said, sometimes I go off on a tangent. Bring me back,
That's
please.
all right.
Yeah.
As the new police chief, how would you engage the members of the department to explain your vision? It would be probably similar, engaging the one-on-one.
Annual meetings, annual department meetings, regular quarterly command staff meetings, so that my command staff understand where we're going. And I always tell my people now, right? And this is a simple formula. If you're working for me, I'm going to tell you what the vision is, right? You can help move the ship forward, right? But the bare minimum, what I expect is you treat people in the community with respect and professionalism, and you do your job effectively. That is the bare minimum. You exceed that minimum, you'll find yourself in specialty assignments. I will reward you and I will support you. But I will not tolerate anything else. So to me, that's kind of, how I've always done things my entire career in any leadership position that I've been in.
Thank you, Chief. Hiring and retaining qualified police officers has grown increasingly difficult in communities throughout the state. Please explain how you hire and retain qualified officers for the town of Canton. Specifically, how would you mentor our young officers?
So I think I kind of gave some of that answer previously. My understanding is that you are under civil service. So I see that as a big hindrance. And the reason why, and I'll tell you, Oxford was civil service. When I became chief, September 5th, 2023, a month later, I went up at town meeting and I asked the town to remove the department from civil service because I realized we were handcuffed with the talent that we could get. The town supported me in that, and we were able to remove the department from civil service. Now, when you're able to do that, and I know some officers are probably thinking, because I hear a lot of things. They feel as though that there's that extra layer of protection, but we also have collective bargaining agreements that offer that same protection. We also have post that supersedes any decisions that are done by civil service. But if we're able to remove civil service from the equation, I think that would be a positive move for us because, and I'll tell you this, you can create the culture that you want by creating a process that is conducive to what we want in a department. All right. So I'll give you an example. When I was in Westboro, I was also in charge of hiring and recruitment. The chief, who happened to be my mentor, he's now in Falmouth. He had tasked me as the administrative lieutenant. He said, I want you, because it's not just Canton, it's everywhere. It's in many different professions. He said to me, he goes, I want you to do whatever you need to do to recruit and get people into the department. So what I did was I asked him, what type of officer would you like to see? And he said, he gave me a list of things. And I said, okay, so I created a hiring committee of officers that best reflect those things that he wanted. And I told them to come up with questions that are not just moral and ethical questions, but they're questions of character, right? Questions of character and reflective questions designed to, I just recently had and I'm not going to say it because we just recently had a hiring process, and there's a particular question that I ask that very few officers get right. And that's by design, because I'm looking for a very specific officer for Oxford that I know that it's going to fit. Every single hire that we've had since I've been there has been the exact fit that we need. And they demonstrate the qualities and characteristics that I demand in my officers. Now, to retain officers, how you retain officers, once you bring them in, you create opportunities, right? You heard me say earlier, officers need to feel purpose in whatever it is that they're doing, right? So that could be engaging with the community. One of the things that I talked about is, in reviewing the audit report, I know that there was some issues there. One of the things that I see, and this is my opinion, what I see in that are people that need support, right? So one of the things that I would like to do is create a crime scene processing unit to support the detectives. You are understaffed by 6 officers, I believe. So when you're understaffed by that and you're trying to hold on to the people that you have, there's going to be errors. That should be expected. You have officers that are overworked, and they're working their tails off. They're going to miss things. They're humans. A lot of these people are working 16-hour shifts, getting forced in 12 hours, 16 hours, and then the community expects that they perform at a top-notch, A+ level. And that's not an expectation that you should have of your officers. They should be supported. But for retaining, build up the staffing levels, create opportunity, create purpose for the officers. And myself as a leader, I am going to train my command staff to identify those individuals within the department that have specific skills and talents, and we will help them build those skills and talents through our career growth and development program. I've had positive results. I have had no problems retaining officers. Bringing them in, you have to be sold, right? Other police departments are competing for the same officers. So you have to do something different internally that makes people want to come here. And that is where I look to the talent that I have. I give them purpose, and I give them assignments best suited for their abilities and their strengths. That's how you retain people.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Geez, want a glass of water first? Am
I talking too much?
No, all right.
Yeah, I'll take a glass of water.
I'll read my question.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, Building trust between the police department and the community is essential for effective policing. Please explain the importance of the Canton community's relationship with the department and the specific steps you'd take to remain engaged with the community, even when residents question the department's impartiality.
Well, I would take the lead on that. I think I want to talk about transparency, but I'm going to ask you to re-ask that question again.
Okay.
Because it was very long.
Question, and then I'm going to give you an example, maybe.
Yeah,
How's that?
you don't have to give me an example. You
Okay.
can just,
Building trust between the police department and the community
Mhm.
is essential for effective policing. Please explain the importance of Canton community's relationship with the department and the specific steps you'd take to remain engaged with the community, even when residents question the department's impartiality.
sure. That's a very easy response for me, because I think that I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You just are transparent. You just have to be transparent. That's what the community expects. Now, obviously, there are things that we can't disclose because of investigations or whatever. But it would be helpful, and this goes for the officers too. I explain things to my officers. When I make a decision, I don't just tell them, hey, this is a decision that's been made. You got to follow it. It's, hey, listen, this is why we need to do this, right? I'm doing this to protect you. And I always get good feedback. So that strengthens the trust that they have in me. But as far as the community is concerned, people want to be heard, number one, right? That's the number one thing. And that's not just Canton, that's everywhere, right? So if you're a chief that's visible and you're responsive to the community, that's going to trickle down to your people. It's my responsibility to protect the officers and ensure that they don't have, it's okay to be scrutinized. And I know that there's officers in the room, it's okay to be scrutinized. But at the end of the day, if you do your job with professionalism, no one who can compete with that, right? And I'm going to be the person that's going to jump in the line of fire to protect them when that scrutiny comes, because if they're being scrutinized, it's my fault. So that's my answer to that.
Okay. Next, how would you respond if credible concerns were raised about investigative practices within your department, past or present?
I would explain through our policies and procedures how it is. I mean, the thing is, I think when you're secretive and you don't give a little bit to the community, it raises natural concerns and questions. And I feel like, and I don't know, I might be different, but to me, I like the question before, I explain why certain things can't be done. That's all people want to know. Why aren't you giving us this information? We can't give you this information because it would compromise this investigation, whatever it is. I don't think there's a magic answer for that. It's just be transparent. That's simple.
So, all right, my follow-up with that one is, but if an officer did make a mistake and did something that wasn't within the standard operating procedures, would there be consequences for the officer's actions, or would it, like, I guess you already said you'd be retraining, or?
I mean, officers make mistakes, right? People make mistakes. I would take it on a case-by-case basis, but I would be fair and consistent across the board. I think people in general expect more from their police, and they should, right? Because we're supposed to have the training and the skill set to do our jobs efficiently. But with that comes, sometimes we're human, we do make mistakes. So the way that I would handle that is I would look at each case. If it's something that I find maybe it wasn't clear in a policy, I'll talk to my lieutenants, we'll evaluate the policy. And if it's not clear, then we need to make it clear. If it was a procedural mistake, then it's my responsibility and the responsibility of my command staff to make sure that those officers receive the appropriate training to make sure that doesn't happen again. Once you do that, it's easier to hold people accountable, because at the end of the day, as a chief, I can say, listen, we had this mistake. We talked to you about it. Now we have a second mistake. We trained you. What is the issue? And if you haven't made the corrections, then there is discipline. It is what it is, you know? And I think, and officers actually want that, right? Especially, you know, they want to know how their performance is. I don't know anybody that goes to work, I personally don't, that doesn't want to know how they're doing. They may not ask, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to critique certain things. And again, it's not micromanagement. It's how can we do things better? How can we help support you so that you can do your job better, easier, or more efficient? And if I can't do that, and this is another thing, and this is something that the community needs to understand, if my officers need something that I cannot get for them that I find is going to be an issue, I'm coming to the town to ask for it, right? Because then it becomes a need, right? So, and I tell my other board of selectmen, you will not see my face unless my officers or the community need something. That's when you'll see me. And if our officers need more training, you will hear it from me, and I'll tell you why they need more training. But I think most of you already know that. So that's where I would go with that.
Okay, last question. What does ethical leadership in the Canton Police Department mean to you in terms of community policing?
Can you say that one more time?
What does ethical, I do talk fast.
I didn't hear ethical,
Okay.
but now I do. Okay.
What does ethical leadership in the Canton Police Department mean to you in community policing, both in practice and appearance? But you can talk about practice first.
All right. I'll try to, so to me, ethical leadership is just, you know, for me, it's again, it starts with me. I hold myself accountable for the performance of my officers, right? I have very high standards for myself. You know, and that's just me. I don't expect my officers to have the same standard that I have, but I do have a minimum expectation that people need to perform to, which, you know, I alluded to earlier. And so ethical is just me leading by example and showing that and being present when I see unethical behavior and correcting that behavior, either privately or through discipline. Because sometimes it could be a mistake. Someone didn't know that they did something, but I'm going to call attention to it. And I've never been afraid of having difficult conversations. I have them all the time. But I do it in a fair manner. I do it without judgment. What comes out of my mouth first is, why did this happen? And I allow the person to tell me why it happened. And that's part of, you know, being an ethical leader. And I teach that to my command staff, and it also trickles down. All of my current command staff right now, they all know how things should be done, and they make sure that their officers execute it in the same way because it's fair. And the playbook is given to the officers. This is the behavior that's going to, you know, cause us to pay attention to you. Go this road, you know, do what you're supposed to do, and you're not going to have any issues. But if we have issues, you know, we correct them. We work with you to correct them. There isn't, you know, ridicule. But if it's something that's unethical, it will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, depending on the severity. Now, the community aspect part, I'm not sure. I have to be honest with you, I'm not sure how to fit that in.
Well, yeah, just talk about community policing. What would you do in Canton in terms of community policing?
Well, there's a lot of things that I would do, you know, and I don't want to sound cliche because a lot of police departments are kind of doing the coffee with a cop thing, but I would look for opportunities to, you know, create within the community and delegate some of those things to my officers. I know that they're doing that to some extent, but I also know too that it can be stressful when you are understaffed and you're trying to engage with the community. Those are things that need to be corrected first. So I would have to get the staffing levels up to where, you know, I find that it's serviceable to the community. And when I say serviceable, I'm talking about addressing all the issues, including community engagement, because you can't community engage if you have a department that is, you have 6 or 7 people down. I will do the community engagement. And it's going to take time. I think people expect that these changes are going to happen, in a split second, but it's not. The officers have to trust me. The people have to trust me. The board has to trust me. I have to build that before I can create opportunities that you're speaking of, but it's going to happen. But I will be the community engagement officer first and foremost.
Last thing,
Yep.
I mentioned appearance because our police cars are really heavily tinted. The Lieutenant, Ray just pointed out a good point, they're in them 8 hours a day and they get hot. So maybe they can be tinted a little bit, but I just feel like they're so austere looking, you don't know who the heck you're looking at.
No, I understand.
So
Well,
there's a happy medium between.
there's
black
also, I want to let you know, there's a reason for that as well. It's not just that the cars get hot. That's not the reason. Well, it could be part of the
One of the
reason.
reasons.
But we also have mobile data terminals
Mhm.
inside the cruisers. We also have weapons. I'm assuming that there's weapons in there. You don't want a citizen that wants to do something horrible to the community to walk by a police cruiser and go, hey, there's a rifle in there, and there's CJIS information, which is not supposed to be out, but that's an officer's office, right? So if they have to do paperwork or they have to do a citation or run a background check on someone, they're doing it in their cruiser. And so that's the reason. I know it looks austere, but here's the thing. I would want the people of Canton to judge the officers, right? The quality of the officers and not just the vehicles that they drive or the tinted windows, because that's a small part of what we do. Those tinted windows are there for the officer's protection, number one. CJIS, which I know a lot of people I'm sure you know what CJIS is, right?
No.
Okay. So it's our criminal justice information system, right? So we get, access to sex offenders and things like that. So that's why those tinted windows are there.
Okay.
So I would keep those there for those reasons that I mentioned.
Okay.
So that's explaining the reason. That's
Yeah,
an
I appreciate
example.
that.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. I thought I said that.
Chief, we'd like to offer you an opportunity to make a brief closing statement, if you would.
Sure, I will be brief. Canton is a beautiful town. My daughter actually interned here. She's funny because she hated the commute, but I love the commute, number one. There's a couple things that I'd like to say, and I'm not going to make it long. I want number one, the people of Canton to understand that I know what the town has been going through, right? We have a community of people that want to be heard by their police department. But I also, and I will do the listing, but I also want the officers to know that if I'm their chief, they're going to get support in every way. I've worked shifts for my officers so that they could spend time with their families. I'm not above I understand what my role is, but to me, it's a team. A police department's a team. I don't walk around letting people know that I'm a chief. I am who I am. And that's what creates the culture that I know that the department wants and that I know that the town wants. I also want the town to understand that it is going to take some time for the department to heal and also for the town to heal. But I am the person, and I'm telling you, that is within my leadership DNA. This is what I do. And I will share a quick story with you. I often reflect on, why I do certain things. So when this opportunity for Canton came up, I'm being authentic. A lot of people were like, don't go there, right? Now, and I'm saying this so that the community understands why I feel I'm the best match here. I saw that and I said, okay, I read through the report. And, I said, okay, these are things that can be fixed, right? And this is within my wheelhouse. The things that you want from your police department are things that I do naturally as a leader, and they will be done. And the officers are going to be, I'm telling, I don't know who, I can tell by your haircuts, some of you, because we have the same, actually, I don't see any bald people there. But, you know, I am going to create a supportive environment for the police department. And I will tell you this, if I take care of these officers, they're going to take care of the community. And that's what needs to be, that's what needs to happen. And I see a lot of people here. This is a community united right now, and they're invested in this. And I understand the investment, and I'm going to deliver on the investment if I'm your chief. So with that, I will say thank you, obviously, for this opportunity. If I am lucky enough to be your chief, you will get 100% of everything I have every day. And I mean that. And I don't have to say it. You can talk to anyone that knows me in any agency that I've been in, and they're going to verify everything that I've said today. So that's what you'll be getting with me. You will get a chief that is going to listen to the community. I'm going to listen to your officers, and I'm going to advocate for the needs of the officers and the needs of the community. And I'm going to bring everybody together. That's what I do. Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Chief, and thank you for your service.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. Okay. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say that I believe our consultant team did a good job in putting two great candidates in front of us this evening. I think both our candidates showed that they had a commitment to law enforcement and many years of service, and interviews were great, and they should be commended for coming here and doing their interviews this evening. That being said, my first impression of both candidates were they both served in long capacity as law enforcement. Lieutenant Ray has been an active member of the Canton Police Department for 25 plus years. He served our community fairly well. I have no complaints about his service to this community, and I think he was a great candidate. Going forward, my personal opinion with the chief that we have in front of us this evening also from Oxford is he shows a creative way of bringing this community into a different era of policing. That being said, I liked him in the interview to move forward as our police chief simply because of the interview that we just had. This is our first time we spoke to either one of these candidates, but Chief Daniels has done a great job in explaining a lot of the problems that we are facing this time in our community. And I think that with his vision of support of the officers, most of them are in the room here, and his vision on how he's going to create that. And I liked his number one thing that he said, and that I hope everybody in town of Canton knows this. And it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take patience with the community. It's going to take patience with our departments, and it's going to be change. We are 10 police officers short at this time. If you look at our police department and you talk to the officers in the back of the room, they are out straight constantly. Not only on their patrols, not only on their detective work, but they are out there doing details day in, day out, emergency response. I was fortunate enough to have 2 officers at my house this past weekend over a medical emergency, along with the first responders of the fire department. And I can't say how professional those gentlemen were and how gracious they treated my girlfriend who was injured. So with that said, I would like to poll the board and have statements from the board and see how you feel about the candidates. Trish?
Sure. I liked both candidates. I thought Lieutenant Ray had a terrific presentation, but I also liked Chief Daniels. I liked Chief Daniels for a couple of reasons. One, he mentioned morals and ethics, and he also mentioned community policing before the words came out of my mouth, and so I thought that was impressive. And yeah, I'll go with that.
Mr. Laughlin.
I'm still writing my notes. I'm sorry. So both candidates I thought were fantastic. So thank you to the public safety consultants to put forward two candidates to make this a difficult decision. It was interesting. They both had points that were the same. So they both talked about removing Canton PD from civil service. They both had ideas on rebuilding community trust with the community, both of which I liked, even though they were different. There was talk of coffee with the chief, a citizens academy, Chiefs Advisory Council. They both supported a town meeting style meeting. And I was also impressed that they both acknowledged the importance of mental health, not only for our citizens, but for the officers as well. So I was happy to hear that. I think they were both good candidates. I can see value. I think Lieutenant Ray had put this in his closing statement. He has firsthand knowledge of the members of the current CPD staff, so he would certainly be able to hit the ground running. But I was very impressed with Chief Daniels and his vision as well for how to improve transparency, how to improve community trust in the town.
My turn?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, I know we're sort of sounding like a broken record here, but I do think we heard from two excellent candidates this evening. And I am very appreciative of Lieutenant Ray's service to this town and the obvious rapport he has built with the officers that he works with over the years. And it's very clear to me he cares deeply about this community. I am grateful that he is in a leadership role in the CPD. I do, however, feel that right now, where we are, Chief Daniels is the leadership we need. I think he has a depth of knowledge and really good communication skills, which I think we all sense just during this interview, that this town desperately needs right now. As he wisely said, we have a lot of work to do. It's like marriage counseling for, 28,000 people. I think I can envision them working well together as a leadership team. But I would have to give the nod to Chief Daniels.
Thank you, Sue. Any more comments?
No.
What is the will of the board? Would you like to vote on this evening?
I think that we should vote on it this evening. We need to get a chief in there. Not that Chief Perkins isn't doing a fantastic job. So if he's watching at home, that's not what that was intended for. But we need to get who our permanent chief is going to be in place as soon as possible. This has been going on a very long time. Mm-hmm. So I would be in favor of voting for it tonight.
Okay, that said, would anybody care to make a motion on either candidate?
I'd make a motion to support Chief Daniels as the new chief.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 4-0. I think we have a new chief. I want to thank, well, you have to do contract negotiations?
This is a conditional offer of employment will be based on successful contract negotiations and background check.
Very good, thank you. I want to thank once again both candidates. I want to thank everybody in this community for being patient for 5.5 months as we went through this. I also want to thank Chief Perkins for the job he continues to do every day, and the entire Canton Police Department for everything they do every single day. With that said, we're done with the.
Would you like me to bring Chief?
What's that?
Would you like me to notify the candidates, then bring Chief Daniels back?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Oh, Okay, why don't I do that? And just give me a few minutes.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting, we can do the next announcement, though.
What is that, sir?
So just the select board will hold the next meeting on Tuesday, January 6, 2026 at 7 PM in the Sala Meeting Room, Memorial Hall, 801 Washington Street.
Thank you, Mr. Lockwood.
Yes, sir. Try to be efficient.
That's very good.
Susan, you had a good point about them working well together, because I think that, yeah, Lieutenant Ray was impressive to me. I was
One having the
pleasantly
the
surprised.
deep institutional knowledge of all things Canton.
Yeah.
Is going to be very important.
Yeah.
Boy, thank you.
I'm surprised it went as quick as it did.
I know.
Well, you kind of put it off track.
Well, Ricky, I didn't
She
know you was going to
almost
sing
drove
this
the train
song.
off the track
Don't be
altogether.
fresh. They were all standing there. I felt like it was the elephant in the room.
Jesus.
Don't be fresh. I totally.
Okay, order.
I'll get everybody on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Chief, well, we just had the formal vote.
Sure.
So now you have a procedural with our town administrator and our HR to get everything in order so that you can come to Canton and get on the ground running.
Thank
Do
you.
we have any time frame on this?
Depends if he wants to agree to a contract.
So
No, I'm sure he has to notify his town.
Okay,
yeah, so I have my previous employment contract, I have to give 30 days. So
Yeah.
I intend on fulfilling that, but I will say, I will be in close contact with Chief Perkins so that there's as little of a delay in the onboarding process as possible. So I don't want there to be any angst, or, the sooner I can get in, the easier it will be for everyone. So that's what I plan on doing.
We'll be talking
excellent, excellent.
contract terms and so forth.
Well, thank you, Chief, very much. Thank you for your time, and
Thank you.
we wish you good luck. And
Thank you.
welcome aboard. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Next, could we have a motion to adjourn? A motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody, and Happy New Year.
So beginning with the existing conditions, the site is located at 454 York Street. It currently consists of a single-family house with a paved driveway.